the Chicago River Green for St. Paddy's Day. Perhaps it's a bagpiper from the Shannon Rovers. Or is it the Queen of the Parade? Is it the boys who build the floats? Or the policemen who keep us safe? They all make Chicago great, but they don't dye the River Green. But there's only one way you get to dye the Chicago River Green. You need to be a plumber from Local 130 in Chicago, Illinois. These fine folks don't just dye the River Green. They tramped up the whole darn parade in the first place. Cheers to the plumbers.
Good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to another Prepare to Repair show. And I am your host, Steve Suarez with RJ Graham Plumbing. On this week's show, we have, as a guest, Troy Koren of Trojan Plumbing, who also happens to be the Oak Lawn Plumbing Inspector. And we are going to discuss plumbing, but it's not going to be a snooze alert plumbing. It's going to be where we're basically talking, technical terms. We're actually going to talk plumbing that is going to pertain to knowledge that you should know as a homeowner, everyday knowledge. So this is going to be very interesting, so I hope you guys stick around for it. Have a couple of announcements before we get to Troy. This week starts high school football on WJOL this Friday, and RJ Graham Plumbing is sponsoring the kickoff on as far as the next the Friday games that are coming up. And this week's game we have Lincoln Way East versus Bolingbrook. So that's going to be a good one. And also, speaking of Lincoln Way East, I want to give a special congratulations to the Lincoln Way East cheerleaders who took first place in the large division. And the other winners for the small division were Greenville. Medium class was Oak Forest, and the co-ed was Lockport, which is really cool because you have 3 of the 4 winners came from the South area. And I'm kind of partial because my daughter was a Lincoln Way East cheerleader, Lincoln Way East grad, two-time winner of state champion. So I'm kind of partial to that. Yeah, she is my co-pilot and my silent partner here, Allison. She doesn't say much. She's kind of nervous for radio. So she is awesome, and she is here with me all the time. And so I wanted to give a shout out to those girls who work really, really hard, and give you guys a heads up on high school football that's going to be on WJOL, and you can hear us on the kickoffs, and which is pretty cool. So wanted to let you guys know how to get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us at the Prepare to Repair show at gmail.com. You can look us up on preparetorepair.com. Also, you can listen to us on podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and on our YouTube channel. And a couple things I want to start off with is over the last, I would say the last few weeks, I was hearing, I monitor social media, and I also listen to customers. And one thing that keeps popping up over and over again is people talking about like pricing. And they're talking about pricing afterwards. They're talking about, I got a price of blah, 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 X amount of dollars, and is this a good price? Is this too high? Did I pay too much? Things like that. So they're pretty much, you're asking questions after you got the number and after you bought something, which really is kind of not the right way to do it. And I understand why, because a lot of people don't know. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we started the show was because we want to be able to educate people as much as we can on what questions to ask. How do I know? How do I find this information? Because, I mean, honestly, if I didn't do plumbing, I wouldn't know what this costs. You rely on people who are in the know, and the professional that's standing before you to give you that information. And then if they turn out to be maybe less than truthful, it really frustrates you. So how do you know? And it's one of those things where the internet as much as it could be kind of you can get some bad information, you can also get some really, really good information on it. And you can check a lot of these things. And a lot of it is research and finding out what job you're going to have, what's it entail. And, I guess if you try looking and say, okay, what should it run? That could be it could be blanket and very vague as well. So I guess the way to look at it is, and what I would recommend as far as to people is, get a plumber when you don't need them. Okay? And you're shaking your head at me, and I can see why. Why would I get a plumber when I don't need them? Good question. I mean, we can do this. This is good. So you get a plumber when you don't need them because this way you control the job. So that means if you have some small work, everybody has some little jobs that, hey, want to do around the house. Have a couple companies come out, give prices on it, have them do it, develop a rapport. So, and then once you develop a rapport and you get an idea of the plumber that you're using, this way when you have an emergency or you develop that rapport, you feel comfortable that you're getting the right information. And you find out who to use and, more importantly, who not to use. So, when you're looking at that, that's a way to do it. And on that note, as far as talking pricing and that, I'm going to bring on my plumbing brother and he is a competitor, and people are asking, why would I have a competitor on? Because this is plumbing, and we're all in the same field, and we're all trying to do the same thing. All licensed plumbers, licensed contractors, we're all, genuinely are trying to do the same thing. Yeah, there's good and bad, but you know what? For the most part, we're all trying to do the same thing. I want to welcome Troy with Trojan Plumbing. Hey, Troy, how you doing, man?
Hey, Steve. Good. How are you?
Good to have you on.
Appreciate you having me.
Oh, come on. How could I not? I mean, you're our first plumbing inspector on the show, so you are number one. You got that distinction. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, great. Sounds good.
Tongue-tied, you're like, okay.
You're right. You did. You got me. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, I was just talking about pricing, and I was talking about a lot of things. I'm sure you've seen the same thing because you're in business as well as being a plumbing inspector. You get the same thing. There's people that are after the fact. They're asking that, and it's a lot of it's information you should probably get in research you should do before you have that plumber come out, because this way and that's why one of the reasons why we're doing the show is to try and empower. And what advice would you give to help people so they're in the know beforehand?
Well, I agree with you. In an ideal situation, you already have a go-to plumber. You have your trusted company that you've used multiple times. You've built a reputation with. They know you, you know them, and you're comfortable. But unfortunately, many times people are in ideal situations when they need us, right?
Yeah.
We get the call when everything's exploding, when things are going awry. And it all comes down to who they find on Google at that moment. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I definitely think if you're able to find those small projects around the house and pay some attention to them. How many times do we have drips or little running toilets or stuff that you're going to get around to yourself, but find yourself never really getting around to it. Take that small expense or smaller expense and build a reputation or find a company that has a good reputation that you can trust for the bigger problems, or bigger jobs that you want done around the house.
Well, what I would say is 99% of this is what I found, and maybe that's a little bit high of a percentage, but 99% of the emergencies that I find are really not emergencies, but they are a water pipe that had built up corrosion over the years that we've walked by countless times, and then it decided to give way. And or that sink that's been slow for about 2 months now, and then finally just backed up. I can go on, and it's one of those things where maintenance is always cheaper than an emergency. So
Correct.
But like you said, it's find the right people, and I always stress on this. And do me a favor, as a put your plumbing inspector hat on. We're going to kind of do like a are we there yet thing where where the guy buys. I don't know if you saw that movie where the guy buys the house, and the guy calls the electrician out. The electrician says, "Man, all this wiring is bad. It's got to go." And he walks out to his car and he puts a hat on that says plumbing inspector. He walks back up and he says, "So I hear you got some plumbing or got some electrical problems." So I need you to put your plumbing inspector hat on and go. When I'm on the on Facebook and I'm on social media and I'm on giving advice, and I'm also on the air here giving advice. I'm saying that you tell me if I'm wrong, because you know what, honestly. Because even if I'm wrong, you can just say, "Steve, you're wrong," and I want you to tell me I'm wrong. I don't care if we're on the radio or not, or this, and you're on with me. I don't care. Right is right and wrong is wrong. That's the way it works. So, but I tell people, get a licensed plumber. Make sure he's licensed. Check his license. Make sure the company is licensed. And when you do that, okay, you've already narrowed your pool of people to hire. Then, when you do that, obviously, you check reviews. You check what people say about them. You check and you do your Google search. You don't just go on Facebook to find somebody and go with a couple people's recommendation, because honestly, there's no telling that they did any research. You don't know where they found them. So right. I say, licensing, you want to check that. That is the key thing, and that's required by law. Am I wrong on that?
Absolutely not. No. Yeah, you are spot on.
Okay, so I'm not trying to steer I'm not trying to fiendishly rub my hands over here and steer work to myself and my company and any other plumber out there, giggling while we're taking work from anybody else. We're doing this for a reason. I mean, it's for health and safety of people out there and of the homeowners and people that just basically people's health and safety. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a couple mistakes that can be made could really cause problems. So,
definitely.
And but like I said, you when you go on and you're talking, you go to houses. I mean, as from what you see, and I see a lot of stuff. I've had people who said to me, when I come and give an estimate, but you see it probably more as being an inspector, they're like, what is this? Can you look at this plumbing and tell me if the plumber did it right? And I look at it and I'm trying, to have my best poker face on it and not show my, my surprise and just concern. And they're like, and they could read it and they're like, you don't think it's right? And I'm like, no. They're like, what? You don't think he was a plumber? I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't even think he was sober. So I mean, it's just bad because a lot of people don't know bad plumbing, and that's because it's just they trust somebody, and we got to get people to trust the right people. And you run into a lot of that stuff, and tell us what you run into as far as plumbers and plumbing that you've seen.
Well, I completely agree. There's definitely many times that I come into that situation. And I would say, it's not when a licensed plumber was hired. Typically, those situations, it is done correctly. It's the situations where a handyman were hired for a plumbing job or a small remodel by a general contractor, and the contractor did not hire outside of his own staff for the plumbing work. It's those situations where I see the most code violations occur. And it can be detrimental, because the homeowner doesn't know, like you said, they don't know what good plumbing versus bad plumbing looks like. But I mean, I've been on jobs where, there was no permit pulled and the whole kitchen was redone, but it was all completely wrong. And really they had to tear apart the whole kitchen to correct it. And I don't like those situations. I feel like a horrible person to tell them they have to do this. But, that's just, like you said, it's my job to protect them and protect the future homeowners of that home. Because it's not just them who is going to live there, and in 5, 10, 15, even 20 years down the road, whenever they sell, somebody else is going to take on that problem. And so that's the job of an inspector, to look out for the future of that property.
So it's the inspect to protect.
Correct.
You're not there to basically mess up anybody's day. You're there to inspect, to protect. And it's better that they know now and can actually have some recourse. We're going to hold this thought for a minute. We're going to take a break, Troy, and on the other side of it, we're going to pick this up because this is some really interesting stuff we have to get to.
OL.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome.
All right, we're back with the Prepare to Repair show. I'm your host, Steve Suarez of RJ Graham, and we're back with Troy Koren with Trojan Plumbing and Oak Lawn Plumbing Inspector. And before the break, Troy, we were talking about having to come in and be the bearer of bad news, and I've had to do that too, and it's not good. See, one of the things that, and you'll probably echo this as well, and is when you go in there, and I stress on getting the right people right off the bat, because the plumbing goes in the walls and then everything's covered up. And then the guys who do the pretty work come in. The drywall, the tile guys, painters, cabinets, all those men and women that knock that out. The designers, they knock it out of the park. They make everything look good. Ours is utilitarian. Theirs is function and beauty. They really make everything look good. The problem with that is if the mechanicals don't work and the mechanicals aren't done right and they have to be accessed, all that money that's spent, counters, granite counters, stone counters, the sinks, faucet, wall tile, cabinets, whatever, have to be pulled out oftentimes to access this work to repair it, which that could get obscenely expensive.
Exactly.
That's what you're running
absolutely.
into. So.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's true. People don't realize all the mechanicals that go on sight unseen, behind the walls, and it's all about aesthetics, and rightfully so. I mean, that is what you want to see every day, but in order to keep that up, you have to have all the functions behind the walls, so yeah, it is a necessity.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. There is a stipulation in the code book, and a lot of people point to this. I see them on Facebook that says, I could do my own toilet. Okay. Yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can do your own.
Yeah.
You have homestead. There's a homestead provision in there that allows you to do your own plumbing, provided it's up to code.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still held to the same code requirements that any licensed plumber is or are. They're allowed to do it themselves. Absolutely.
Correct. But it still has to pass plumbing code and so forth.
Yep.
And even then, it's always better to hire someone because they know the code. I mean, if you don't know the code, then how many times are you going to have the inspector come out and potentially fail it? And I don't know about in Oak Lawn where you're at, but there's a lot of areas that charge you per trip if you fail.
Right.
So
right.
That can get that can get up there because at some point your work and your finances are going to level off. So you want to make sure you can get that done and passed. So, But yeah, I mean, we run into that, and that's a question that I don't need the city to tell me this and that, and it's like, and again, this is another reason I keep referring to another reasons why I wanted to do the show is the city is not coming in to storm in and tell you what you can and can't do with your property. I mean, am I right? I mean, they're, like I said, inspectors.
No, not at all. Right. They want to protect the future homeowners of that property and the current homeowners. I mean, because they do get a lot of calls. Somebody buys a house, they come in and then find out that they have all these issues. A lot of times they call the city, and say, hey, why wasn't this work inspected? What was there ever a permit pulled? And it's those things they want to try to head off, because that's just issues that they don't want to deal with, and the new homeowner shouldn't have to deal with those problems. So, it's definitely about protecting the homeowners and the residents of town. Well,
an inspector told me out in Homewood, very, very nice guy. He said, quite simply, the house stays in the neighborhood. The house stays in the village. Mm-hmm. Homeowners will come and go, but the house stays in the village. So they want to make sure that they keep the integrity of the houses at the highest it can be, so it maintains the property values in the area, so you don't have any falling in disrepair. So I mean, I could see why that is, and I've got another question here. I'm going to give you a scenario, and this is something homeowners they run into, and you could tell me you've probably seen it on both ends. Okay, say I come out and I do a job. All right, I do a job, and say I'm an unscrupulous, or I'm just a plumber just trying to make a sale, and I tell someone, or I tell a customer, yeah, you need to rip out all of this and redo it, okay? And it's, say it's piping in their basement, whatever the case may be, and they don't agree with me. They're like, okay, so they're like, I'm going to call up, who can I call? So say they call another plumber, and another plumber comes out, he potentially could tell him certain things because, well, he's not going to be an independent source because he wants the job. He wants to make the money off of this. So he's not an independent person because he can have a vested interest in getting that job and stealing it from the other guy. How many would an inspector such as yourself are calling the village, would that be a good resource to have them come out and say, you know what, I'm getting people coming over here telling me I need to do this. Is this right? Would an inspector such as yourself calling the village and just asking, can I have somebody come out and look at this? I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It doesn't happen often, I'll say that. And I don't want to speak for every town, but I know if that call came through to me, I would happily go and take a look at it and give my honest opinion on it. Typically stuff like that does not happen. Typically, I will get the call to come in ahead of time if they're planning a big project. Okay. To walk through and go over what my expectations are on the project. I'll get those calls. But I welcome. I love when that happens because that is setting the expectation and just getting ready. Preparing properly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I like those calls, and I welcome the calls that you referenced. I mean, I'd be happy to give honest feedback. Just because somebody doesn't, they may not have to replace it. It may not be an absolute necessity.
Correct.
But maybe it is something that they would like to think about, for the home's value. If you do have old galvanized piping, there is an age of plumbing, that you do have to keep in your mind, as you go through. And will it cost more over the lifespan to replace section by section than if you just replaced it all at once? So those sort of things you do have to keep in mind when you're factoring those sorts of jobs.
Oh, absolutely. I was referring mainly to, I mean, let's just, be honest. It's the trades. I mean, the plumbing trades, plumbers have gotten a bad name over some things that were done in the past. But, and what I was saying is, okay, I'm a homeowner. Okay, who do I turn to? I don't know. Who do I call that can possibly be somebody that's independent that would be able, that's not trying to sell me anything? And my thought would be, would the village be a viable option? Because they're also a viable option when they're searching for plumbers. And
absolutely.
Call up and say, hey, is there a list of plumbers that are registered in the area, that have worked in the area, that you have a good reputation with? And what they usually do is, I know they have a list of licensed plumbers that they haven't had any complaints about and that have worked in the village. So that's also another resource. And kind of, segueing that as far as, finding, like I said, finding plumbers. When I tell people, it's like, don't use the only, like Facebook is your only reference. Look online, look at, Google them. See what, look at their Google reviews, look at their, Better Business Bureau, see if they have any reviews there. Check review sites like Angie's List and so forth. Look at those. But when you look at the reviews, look at the negative reviews. And when I say negative reviews, that is, because positive reviews are great. You can, if they have like 600 reviews or 400 reviews, chances are they're not all cousins. I mean, they're friends or family members.
Right.
If someone knows that many people, that's fantastic. I mean, but
I would agree with you. Right.
For the most part, they're going to be legitimate reviews. It's okay. So you're looking at those, and it's like, okay, great. Everyone loves you when you do great. What happens? What's the bad side? So when you look at the negative reviews, all right, what are the things that you look for as far as negative reviews? You want to look for red flags, like did not complete the project, walked off the project, took delays on the project, took a down payment, didn't come back. Those are red flags. Now, I've gotten some of these reviews, and I'm sure that you know about that. And I always say this because people need to know what to look for, because they don't know. I've had the ones where I called and nobody answered. Okay.
Yeah.
Negative review. Okay. 1 star, F, whatever. Okay. Or I called them out and the price they gave me over the phone was too high. Or they came out here and they gave me a price I didn't like, or they wanted to do something I didn't like. I mean, things like that. I mean, there's things where it's like there's just a vibe issue where you could see that there was something that maybe they weren't the right fit, or maybe they did or didn't call. I mean, again, when you're using phones, there's a possibility maybe they didn't get your voicemail. I don't know any business out there that makes money on not answering their phones.
Right.
It's. I don't think, again, fiendishly rubbing your hands together, giggling, and watching the phone ring and saying, "Okay, we're not going to answer you." So, I mean, it's one of those things where you have that. But I think the negative thing on prices is, and that's one thing I've seen too, as we were just talking about prices, is without seeing it and without comparing. What are you comparing that high price, as was said, or that price you didn't like? What are you comparing it to? You know what I mean? I mean, what do you see on that end from a plumbing aspect? Is, what are you comparing that to? I mean, how does one, if you're a homeowner, I would say as someone who buys, I say compare apples with apples, compare your value rather than the price. What am I getting for the money rather than what the money is? Because it all depends on what you're getting, because a water heater with no warranty is obviously going to be less expensive than a water heater with a full, a full run warranty with, inspections and things like that. So you're going to have that window. What do you run into on that end as far as that?
Oh, I would agree completely. Most of the time it comes down to them comparing an apples to oranges scope of work or estimate. Whenever we write up an estimate, we always like to make sure we're covering all the bases. We're fixing it not just for now, we're fixing it for years to come. We want a whole solution to fully serve our customers. And so when somebody else comes in with a lower quote, a lot of the times it's because they're just solving the problem for now and not for future. It's more of a quick fix or a Band-Aid. And so it's really not fair to compare the price in those terms anyway. I can understand budgeting issues and totally acceptable reasons why you would go with the other option, but that does always kind of get me when we get those reviews. It's, well, were you really comparing apples to apples here? I would say you definitely need to take that into consideration when you're looking at the scope of work. Make sure when you're getting an estimate, it's written out, it's detailed, exactly what is included in this cost and what's included in that cost, and are the scope of work the same? And most times, if there's a drastic price difference, I think you'll see that they're not the same. There's more value built into the slightly higher priced estimate than there is on the lower one. Aside from that, it's also the level of service, that the company is providing to you. Are they well dressed? Are they clean? Are they, how is the office staff? How was it? How easily accessible are they? Those sort of things all kind of come into play too.
Your overall experience.
When picking a director, your overall experience. Sure.
Right. So basically I call up Trojan Plumbing, and I talk to one of your staff, and I have water spraying. I'm freaking out. I have no idea. And the person who answers the phone says, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put you on the phone with somebody. They're going to assist you in, remedying and turning off that water, and then we're going to get one of our guys over there, and he's going to assess it and take it from there, and then blah, blah, blah. So it's that right there is walking you through in customer service and, basically a resolution at the time of the phone call. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as a homeowner, that's what I would want. Okay, what do I do until you get here? Because honestly, if it takes you 25 minutes to get here or 30 minutes to get here, and I've got a valve blowing out water or a pipe blowing out water, that's a lot of water.
That's a problem. Yeah,
exactly. So if I have somebody that, again, if you've got a person that is just has a voicemail or whatever, and then you're calling back versus somebody who is, has a level of service of what, you're offering, then it's going to be a totally different scenario that could mean the difference of more damage. So, it's not saying that somebody may not have it or whatever. It's just when you're calling, you just want to compare the overall experience on what you're getting versus, comparing apples with apples. And I have, I've seen, people out there that, you're comparing somebody who's not licensed to a company that is. Like, say you're getting a water heater, say you're getting a water heater done.
Right.
And I give a price for a water heater. Okay. Well, you got another price from a heating and cooling company that's all they do is heating and cooling. And their price is cheaper. Well, they're going to be, because they're not licensed to do plumbing. If they are licensed to do plumbing, then chances are they probably are going to be the same way. So, using that analogy and using that, it comes down to when something's cheaper, why? If something is, if there is that discrepancy, like it's huge. Because when they say you're getting estimates, say you're getting 3 estimates, you really shouldn't be that far off. There really should be those intangibles, I would say, that are going to separate the two. Like, say, if there are 3 people, you're going to go with the one that you felt more comfortable working with. Like you said, the experience. Yes. Who did I talk to? Who did I communicate? Who did I relate with? Who did I, feel more comfortable with? There really shouldn't be that. You shouldn't have 3 estimates that are, hundreds of dollars, even thousands of dollars apart, if they're giving you the same products, the same materials, the same, you know what I mean? If they're the same, giving you all the same experience, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be
correct.
That far off.
Yeah, they should all be in the same ballpark for sure.
That's
right. But I think you're right. I think it should come down to who you're most comfortable with, who has the best reviews, and overall, just who you feel comfortable with. Who you want to put your trust into. I think that's really what it should come down to, and it does take an interview process. Meeting them, talking to them, multiple interactions, and to build the customer.
Oh, absolutely. We are going to. We're going to go. Give us a second here, Troy. If you want to hold on, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to get back to that topic because I want to kind of go through that a little bit more. So,
sure.
It's at 6. Winters in the Joliet area can be brutal. 1340 WJOL's meteorologist Rick DeMaio has his radar locked on Will County and will make you aware of weather headed our way. How will it impact the roads? And how will it impact your life? Weather that affects you, Joliet and Will County, can be found right here on 1340 WJOL.
Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show. I'm your host, Steve Suarez. And on the phone, we still have Troy with Trojan Plumbing and also the plumbing inspector in Oak Lawn. And I appreciate you being on here with me, Troy, because it's nice to have a plumbing brother on here. So
I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. I wanted to bring up something here. I forgot to, we got to talking about the other one. I wanted to bring this up, and I got this because I have family members that live in Oak Lawn, and this I don't think this is even just going to be confined to Oak Lawn. I think this is probably going to continue to maybe hit around the area as well. But
I think so.
The letter that my mother got, it says, starting April 1st, 2021, the Village of Oak Lawn requires a point-of-sale sewer inspection prior to transfer of property. The village is inspecting private sewer systems to confirm compliance with Village Code 9-4D-11, which requires discharge of infiltration and inflow into the sewer system. This inspection program is being implemented to reduce the risk of sewer backups into basements. So, in regular people terms, what does that mean?
Okay, so I think this is a good thing for the Village of Oak Lawn, and I think you're right. I think it is going to spread because it's not Oak Lawn that deals with this. So basically, inflow and infiltration. What are those? So inflow is groundwater getting into the sanitary sewer system through direct means of connection, meaning do you have roof leaders or gutters that tie directly in? Are there yard drains or driveway drains, stuff that rainwater can go into that connect to the sewer system, catch basins, defective manhole covers. And the biggest one that we see a lot is sump pumps. So sump pumps tied directly into your sanitary sewer system. These all add to the overload that happens when we get these rains, and the sanitary system, the pumping system just can't handle it. And so we do see a lot of flooding when this happens. And so in order to try to prevent that, this is absolutely crucial to helping people in the future. The more we can reduce that burden on the system during those peak volume times, the better off everybody's going to be. On the other side, the infiltration is more of a infrastructure issue. So if you have a gravity system, most of our sewer pipes are clay tile. They're all older clay tile. The joints tend to crack and leak, and that groundwater will find its way into the system, also putting a further burden on the system. So those are the sorts of things that we're looking for, that we want to try to catch at the point of sale, to then offer a solution, because it's not just a matter of, okay, you have these issues, you better get them fixed. It's, hey, you have these issues. I'm speaking in terms of Oak Lawn anyway. The way they're running it is, we also have a 50-50 program where they're going to share that cost burden with you up to $5,000. So they understand that this could be a burden on many people, and they want to try to help with that as much as they can. So I think it's a good program. I think a lot of people scared of it. People selling their home. Obviously now it's a seller's market. Everybody, there's been a little bit of a kickback on it, and I understand people's concerns. But I think overall this is really good. This is something that's good for the future of Oak Lawn. Well,
let's when you look at it from the village's point of view, it's like, this is what we're trying to do, because the sewer mains are getting overtaken when you have the heavy rains. Now, what does that mean? You look at a lot of houses in Oak Lawn. A lot of them were built with their gutters going into the sewers.
Correct.
So, you splash those. Now, the issue becomes, when you splash them, you got to splash them in such a way that you're not going to cause a hazard towards your neighbor. So there's things that have to. A lot of it is simple common sense solutions, especially if and they're very they could be done working with. Obviously, they can talk to the village and come up with plans on how to do it. So it's better to work with the village on something like this than it is to basically just get angry and just tell them go pound sand. You know what I mean? So I think it's better to do that. But to really put a thumb on it is, and I know this area pretty well, but if you are from Oak Lawn, or actually you've even seen it, when the rains get so heavy that it is pushing the manholes off of their bases, and the manholes are floating away, or they've got to put bricks on top of the manholes to hold them down because the water level is getting overwhelmed, or people on slab homes that are literally seeing water run out of their house. And, if they don't have basements, they're slab homes. It's coming out from underneath their toilets. It's blowing it out. That's a problem. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's there to help out everybody. It's not there to really, okay, we're gonna have you help us upgrade our infrastructure. It's basically, we need everybody's help, because somebody is getting the short end of the stick here. And you don't want that. You want people to. It's a community. You want everyone to help each other and do what you can to alleviate. Because if everybody does their part to alleviate, it does remove a lot of. It does help a lot. Especially during the time when it gets rain, when there's heavy rains. And I don't think Oak Lawn's the only one that has a problem. A lot of older towns are having this issue, so they're not alone.
Certainly. So no, not in any means that they're not alone. But I understand people's frustrations when it happens. We always see it on social media. People kind of run and I totally understand. Nobody wants to deal with flooding every year. And hopefully the goal of this is to prevent that
But at least the village is providing some help with it. I mean, that's a great thing. I mean, at least we acknowledge, we know there's some issues that we have to we're looking at, we're trying to fix. There's some stuff that we've got that we're trying to alleviate, and we've got solutions in place, which is really cool, and it's definitely some resources that a homeowner can look at. So I
right.
appreciate.
No, they definitely. I feel like they thought it through. And this wasn't just a quick draw program thrown together. It's been in the making for a few years, from my understanding. And Oaklawn has put a lot of money in their own infrastructure, in lining a lot of the mains, most of the big mains, to prevent infiltration. And now it's kind of coming to, they've done a lot of their part. Now we need to kind of do ours, because each individual home makes up a big part of the village's infrastructure, but it's private, not public. So the fact that they are willing to help with it, I think it's awesome. It
is really good. I want to thank you, Troy, for coming on. I mean, time goes by quick, brother. I'm going to definitely have to have you on again, man. If people want to get a hold of you at Trojan Plumbing, and what would be the best way to contact you?
Well, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, online, trojanplumbing.com. Our phone number is 708-250-5670. Yeah.
All right, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I love talking plumbing on it. I wanted to make it so it wasn't a snooze fest, that we're talking, just all the actual plumbing terms, rather than information that's going to help people as far as hiring and getting the right people and reviews and so forth. So I appreciate you being on, Troy. It's been great, man. Thanks.
No, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me, Steve.
All right, brother. Take care, man. Thanks. And what we've got, I want to kind of wrap up the show. Next week, our next week's guest is going to be Michael Hart from Zoller Pumps. He's a representative. We're going to talk pumps, especially now as the rainy season is going to start to hit us, and so we can get an idea of what kind of pumps, what kind of systems that may be right for you, and get some information on those. And also, I want to thank Troy for being on the show. And if you need to reach us, please reach out to us at